We are live right here on Fake Chats, and I am so excited today when it comes to Generation Z and talking politics. My friend today is one of those top commentators. And Morgan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
I am excited to talk to you again. Last time we had a great conversation, but today, I have an even greater conversation. And for those who don't know you, you began with a background from studying mechanical engineering at Texas Tech to becoming a full time political commentator. Share with us a little bit about how that spark shifted for you.
My journey started when I was in college facing cancel culture, and I continued to kind of push back against the woke mob that was trying to get me kicked out of my sorority and get me kicked out of college eventually. And so I kind of listened to him. He's like, you know what? I'm going to drop out of college actually to work for Charlie Kirk. There's a lot more meaningful things that I could be doing in this world than just staying in college and getting a degree, which we all know that Charlie Kirk says that college is a scam. And it's kind of funny because I do have a passion for engineering and I loved my time being in college. But after the 2020 election and COVID, it really was apparent to me that there was a need and it was necessary to have more Gen Z voices out really talking about politics, talking about the truth, and being a beacon for hope for other young, like minded individuals. So that's kind of what led me to find Turning Point USA, where now I have been a contributor for 3 full years and have been able to travel across the country to colleges and high schools and really just impact the next generation and continue to spread the truth.
So, as you just mentioned, you experienced cancel culture firsthand. Share
Mhm.
with us a defining moment that shaped your decision to really fight for conservative values.
I mean, it was just all of the backlash and hate, which made me realize, if I'm getting this much backlash, I must be saying something right. And I know that I'm not the only one out there, which lo and behold, I found out that I was not the only conservative woman living in a college campus and facing cancel culture. There was many other people that feared speaking out because of the mob that continues to come after you. So it really wasn't a moment that stuck out to me, but more of just a season of my life while being in college, battling, studying for exams while also posting on the internet about my political opinions and having girls, talk bad about me behind my back. That made me realize, there's other people out there that I know that think like me and speak like me. And that's what led me to going to to a Turning Point event where I was in a room of 3,000 other young women in Dallas who, came from all across the country for the same reason that I did. And I ended up making some of the best friends I've ever made.
So, as a Generation Z commentator, how do you see your generation's role in shaping the future of American politics?
So many ways. I mean, I think Gen Z is the future and we are the generation for change, but change, I think, is not changing in a progressive way, but changing and reverting back to what our founding fathers instilled in this country through the Constitution. We saw that in this last election, seeing how Gen Z categorically voted in the conservative direction more than we've ever seen before. I mean, young men right now are more conservative than our grandparents are. And I think that's something that we need to look at. And instead of shaming Gen Z for usually being the woke, crazy ones, of actually taking a step back and seeing, no, Gen Z is starting to figure it out. And we need to start encouraging them to actually look at tradition, look at the documents that our founding fathers wrote for us. It is a roadmap to success, to a thriving and flourishing country. And that's what we're doing, is we are restoring hope in America, because I know a lot of young Americans right now are really not too pleased with the economic situation. They want to buy a house, they want to get married, they want to have kids, but feel like they can't. And so if we can focus as conservatives on those issues, I think Gen Z will continue to embody conservative values and push forward to a successful future.
So, what do you think is the biggest misconception about Gen Z's political beliefs, and how are you working to challenge that narrative?
I mean, I would say the biggest misconception is that we're dumb and uninformed, but I think that this last presidential election proved that to not be true. What the social media platforms were pushing pre election of Kamala Harris and having all of these crazy woke trends, that isn't what we saw at the polls. Instead, we saw Gen Z moving 13 points in the conservative direction, more than we've ever seen before. And we need to continue to look at that and encourage all of the older generations to realize that Gen Z is not dumb and uninformed. They're actually moving in the right direction.
So, as a TPUSA contributor, as you shared with us, you've spoken at colleges and high schools about issues like free speech and feminism. What's the most common question or pushback that you get from students mostly?
It's going to sound funny, but how do you know that women are women and men are men? A lot of people that are transgender activists, LGBTQ activists come at me for, talking about men can't be in women's sports, that we are biologically different, as well as when I'm talking about feminism. I say that the feminist movement really has hurt women more than helped, and that there isn't toxic masculinity. Instead, it's actually toxic feminism that has ruined Western civilization in this country. And we need to actually restore real biblical femininity instead. And so when I say things like that to normal leftists or to Democrats, they think that that is completely outlandish. And it's less about asking me questions and more about just hating what I have to say.
So, the TPUSA Student Action Summit draws thousands of young conservatives. What was your experience like this year?
It was phenomenal. I mean, there were thousands of young conservatives from across the country in Tampa, Florida. And I spoke on a breakout panel about just culture changing and how we can continue to encourage the young generation to stand up for their beliefs and values. And it was really encouraging just to see how many people showed up to this event to hear from some of the greatest voices in the conservative movement and get that fuel, that fire that they need, so that when they do go home to their own districts and counties and states in this country, that they're able to have a voice and know that they have a voice that they can use and not to let anyone silence them.
So, what are some of the primary issues that you heard being addressed at the Student Summit this year?
I would definitely say, like, highlighting the accomplishments that the Trump administration has been able to do in the first 6 months. A lot of illegal immigration talk. There was also a lot of abortion talk of like how we can continue to push states towards a more pro-life future. A lot of talk about the economy and bringing, free markets, limited government, all the things that Turning Point stands for. And it's just really encouraging because the younger generation is on fire, especially after this election. And so as long as we continue to encourage them and provide resources and education, then I think we're on a really good track, especially when it comes to the economy and immigration, which are two of the biggest issues that are facing Gen Z in America right now.
So, when it comes to social media, you have had 100,000 weekly impressions, my friend. That is amazing. So, to the young conservatives that are on social media that feel like they're being silenced, what advice could you give them in this time?
I mean, like, if that's what you really want to do is post on the internet, then I say, like, go for it. But really, like, think about what that's going to look like for your future, because once you say it, you can never go back. But I am definitely a strong proponent of say what you believe and stand up for your beliefs and rights, because you have the right to do so. We have the First Amendment for a reason. And sometimes it's really hard when you have the backlash. But, I always say, like, is it worth it? And people ask me if it's worth it. And I always say, yes, it is worth it, because you are going to gain so many more valuable connections and friends in this life that won't tear you down and that do actually believe what you believe.
Now, you just shared with us just a few minutes ago that the most backlash that you get is about people asking, well, what is a woman? You know, and I want to ask you, how do you define modern feminism?
Toxic, horrible, a detriment to society. I mean, modern feminism is so far removed from what the beginning looked like of getting women the right to vote, which even like women being in the workplace has, had its own faults in America. And so, modern feminism is just so far removed. And I think that a lot of these young feminists like don't actually know what they believe in.
So, what do you believe that young women need to hear about today from that perspective?
They need to embody biblical femininity and realize that working in a corporation for the rest of your life, sitting in a cubicle, is never going to be as fulfilling as being a mother and being a wife. And that's something that I know I'm looking forward to in my future, especially as I look forward to getting married in about 20 days. So I definitely am excited for this next chapter in my life of, I work on the internet. But really, I think women need to realize that it's going to take sacrifice and taking a step back. And instead of being selfish and putting yourself before your family, that you have to really focus on your family. And that is what's most important at the end of the day.
So, in your view, what do you believe the most pressing cultural or political issue facing Gen Z is right now?
Right now, the economy. I mean, young people in this country want to buy a house, they want to get married, and they want to have a family, but they feel like it's completely unaffordable. And especially if you look at the rent rates in big cities right now, they continue to increase while salaries are not increasing to keep up with inflation and keep up with the housing crisis, or not crisis, but housing momentum. And so, it's really unfortunate when you're a young American and you really want to have the American dream. And I think that's something that we need to, as conservatives, continue to put our foot on the gas to, and encourage young people to continue to work and advocate for conservative values and conservative individuals in Congress so that we can continue to pass legislation that is working to fix our economy.
And how do you feel that conservatives can address it effectively?
I mean, what the Trump administration is doing right now is phenomenal, especially adding more jobs, taking out illegal immigrants, building more houses. But there definitely is a lot more work to do.
So let's talk about something that most people don't like to talk about. So you've written about significant stories in your career so far, and one of those were the Ashley Babbitt case and settlement for her family. Share with us what it was like to be able to cover such a high profile case.
Well, I'm not really a journalist. I don't cover cases like that. Sometimes with Turning Point's live feed and certain things, we write articles about different stories that are appearing. And obviously that one was a big one that shook the nation. A lot of what happened in Trump's previous term and talking about the election. So I remember writing that article a bit ago, and it really is a story that shook the nation. And I think that we need to continue to just open our eyes and see what's going on in our country.
And how do you approach sensitive topics like that?
I mean, we have to. At the end of the day, I don't think that any topic is too sensitive. If something is quote unquote too sensitive in the culture, then clearly it needs to be said.
So you described yourself as a Christian and emphasize values like religious liberties and things like that. How does your faith guide your work as a commentator and an activist?
Faith is everything. Like at the end of the day, it is all for Jesus Christ. And I believe the Bible, I believe in Jesus. And so everything that I say and do stems from that at the end of the day.
So, how do you connect with young people who might feel disconnected from traditional values in today's fast paced world? And that is easy to do to feel disconnected, that is.
Yeah, you have to pray for those people, and you have to continue to encourage them and lead them towards the gospel. At the end of the day, I would rather have more Christians in this earth, and we are bringing ultimate salvation to somebody rather than just debating about conservative values. And 9 times out of 10, when you're talking to a Christian or somebody who becomes a Christian later, conservatism follows.
So, what's your mission for the next 5 years?
Get married, have some kids, enjoy life, and continue to encourage the next generation to use their voice and stand up for the truth and just make an impact in this world.
So, is there any major conferences coming up for you soon?
There's America Fest that will be in December, and so we're really excited about that. This is a Turning Point USA conference, and it's our biggest one of the year. There's over 10,000, sometimes even 15,000 people come from across the country, which tickets, I believe, are on sale now at amfest.com, and that will be in Phoenix, Arizona in December.
Morgan, thank you so much for your time. God bless you, my friend. And God bless your marriage coming up. I am excited for you. I encourage folks they can find you on Facebook, Twitter, TPUSA.com. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Have a great
All
rest
right.
of your day.
You too. Bye bye.